but I'm going to go ahead and record just so we can share with other students. All right, so this is where we're heading with our time today. We kind of want to share with you what this time is going to look like. So we're going to start with the application components. So what makes the Biola application itself to help prepare you as you're beginning this process in July, as early as July. Second thing we'll cover is the online application. So there are 3 different components of the application. You got the online portion, transcripts, test scores, personal essay. So we're going to cover those 4 things individually. And then the very end, we're going to cover a little portion we call above and beyond. And it is really just sharing like, okay, is there anything else that I need to do other than just the Biola application? Does certain majors have certain requirements? All of those kinds of things we will make sure to cover too. So there's where we're heading with our time today. As Amber mentioned, if you think of any questions that you have, we definitely want to hear those things. I'm going to go ahead and make our chat just to the host only. So feel free to chat in your questions to either Amber or myself, and one of us will answer it at the end of our time today. All right.
Great, but before we get started, we want to give you some context, just a framework to keep in mind. So here are the admission requirements for incoming freshman students. This is what we need to see when we are reviewing your application. So first, Biola is unique from other Christian colleges and universities because we require not only faculty and staff, but the student body as well to all be Christians. So we're looking for students who have chosen to follow Jesus, who have made their faith their own and are interested in growing in their faith. Academically, we like to see at least a 3.0 unweighted high school GPA. And then we ultimately need you to graduate from high school or earn an equivalent degree like the GED. So this year, because of COVID, we are waiving the SAT and ACT requirements. We've yet to hear from the university if we're going to be able to do that next year or not, but we're hopeful just because I know the test keeps getting canceled based on where you live, that we'll be able to kind of continue that policy. But usually we need to see a 1,000 on the SAT or a 19 composite on the ACT. Again, we're not sure what those will look like in the fall, but for this year anyway, like so long as you're a Christian, you have at least a 3.0 GPA and you plan on graduating from high school, you're admissible to the university. We would love to have you apply and welcome you to the Biola family. All right, so we want to encourage you to complete an application. Next slide, we'll talk about some of those admission deadlines. And so here are the admission deadlines that we have every year: November 15th, January 15th, and March 1st. For you juniors, if possible, we highly recommend completing your application by the November 15th deadline. If you complete your application by November 15th, you are guaranteed to know whether or not you've been admitted by Christmas, if not sooner. And then that's just good too. It gives you some peace of mind. We're able to start the financial aid process sooner with you. It really is just in your best interest to do it sooner rather than later.
So good. Thanks, Amber. And the other thing to know is the earlier you guys apply, more than likely the earlier you'll know too. So if you're getting the application right away when it becomes open in July, you'll probably hear very, very quickly, and probably the first college that you hear from too, which is always exciting. All right, let's dive into the different application components itself. So here's a bit of an overview about these components. So like I shared, there's a number of different things that you'll complete. Like Amber shared, we're still determining if test scores will be something that is required, but it's very likely that we might waive that for this next year too. So keep an eye on your email inbox. We will update you guys as we make that decision. But from there, what you'll need to complete your application is first the online application itself. Second thing is the high school transcripts. Third thing is your personal essay. Once you complete all of those 3 items, then your application will be complete and ready for review. So that's kind of what you're aiming towards. You want to make sure that your application is complete, and that means that your admissions counselor can begin reviewing your application. Something to mention too is in the online application itself, there's going to be a button that you click that says submit. That is something that you will need to do. We have a lot of students that will whiz right through and go right over it. So just be sure to submit your online application. And then you'll be able to upload those additional supplemental items, the high school transcripts, and your personal essay. So with that said, we can go right into the online application itself.
Yeah, so now that you kind of have an understanding, we'll take some time to break down those different components. And we'll start first with the online app. For the sake of time, we won't go over every single section of the application, just the areas that tend to be the most confusing for students. And the first section that we receive a lot of questions about is on the Social Security number. Legally, we can't require you to share this information with us on your application to the university. However, we do highly recommend that you include your Social Security number, if you have one, for financial aid purposes. The financial aid office at Biola uses Social Security numbers to match your FAFSA reports to students in our system. So if you file a FAFSA for financial aid, but you do not include your Social Security number on your application, you won't be able to receive a financial aid package from Biola because they won't be able to link your FAFSA report to your student file. So again, it's more than okay if you leave this blank on the application, but doing so means that you won't receive financial aid package from Biola. So keep that in mind. If you're an international student, you won't have a Social Security number, so no worries. You can go ahead and leave this section blank.
Well, second section that we get a lot of questions on is the extracurricular activities / interest / employment. So I want to just explain kind of what this is. Really, in a sense, we want to get to know the things that are most meaningful to you and the things that really take up the most time in your life. Granted, things have looked different during this pandemic. Maybe you haven't been able to be involved in clubs that you had before, or sports have looked different for you. Maybe you've been spending time more so just like with taking care of your family and taking on new responsibilities like that. Those are all really important things that we still want to see on your application. So even if you have not been involved in extracurricular activities as maybe how colleges might describe it, that's okay. Like, we want to know, what does it look like for you to be involved with your family or to pick up a part-time job as you're in school during this pandemic? Whatever that looks like, we want to get to know what that is. So some key things to kind of keep in mind during this is to focus on quality rather than quantity. Sometimes it is really easy to get overwhelmed with the amount of things that you might be involved in. This isn't how it is for everyone, but I remember myself in high school, I was a part of volleyball, soccer. I had a part-time job at Del Taco, which was super fun. And a lot of things with church too. So it's just like a lot. And although all of those things were awesome, I think when I was going through my application, it would have been helpful to focus on quality. So for example, I played volleyball during my freshman and sophomore year. It was definitely not a part of my life during my junior and senior year. And so that's something that I probably would not put on my application if I was doing it again now. I would definitely put my job at Del Taco on my application because that took up a lot of time in my life. And so putting those things on your application are definitely helpful, but focus on quality rather than quantity, and just know that your admissions counselor gets to know you through the things that you input on this list. And then to reiterate, focus on things that are meaningful to you and highlight who you are and things that occupy your time. So if that does look like, added responsibilities that you've had because of the pandemic and just taking care of your family, or dog watching, whatever it looks like, those are things that we want to see on your application. So focus on those kind of two areas. Okay, this is what the actual section looks like on your application. So you'll have a lot of different components of your application. At the top, you can see that I'm highlighted under the activities area, and this is where you'll input all of those things that I mentioned. Like I shared, sometimes we have students that are extremely involved in things, and that is okay. If you feel like you're not able to put everything onto your online application itself through the boxes that we have available, that's okay. You can email our admissions data management team. Right there on that email, you'll see, and you can include a resume style document where it just outlines your extracurricular activities. This is not required. We do not expect you to do this, but if you feel like you are not able to put yourself onto your extracurriculars because there wasn't enough space, this is an option for you, but it is not required. So there we go.
All right, the next section is our Pastoral Spiritual Mentor section. So if you remember earlier, I talked about mission requirements at Biola. I said that students are required to be Christians. So because of that requirement, we do ask for the name and contact information of a pastor or spiritual mentor in case we have questions about your spiritual life. This person should be someone outside of your immediate family, who can speak to your Christian commitment or spiritual life, like a youth pastor, small group leader, Sunday school teacher, really anyone who knows you well. So we don't require a separate letter of recommendation, and we may not contact the person listed, but we do need a name and contact information just in case we have follow-up questions for them. So if you don't have anyone that fits the category, let your admissions counselor know, and they can give you specific instructions on moving forward. And then the final step, Emily talked about it a little bit, is the sign and submit section. We want to reiterate this because it happens every single year, but the final step to successfully completing your online application is to actually sign and submit. Again, this may sound silly or seem ridiculous to say, but we do have students, like quite a few every single year, that miss important deadlines all because they don't actually hit the submit button. So save yourself the time and possible embarrassment, and make sure you complete all the necessary steps.
It's a good reminder, definitely a good reminder. And I'll remind you guys too, if you have any questions that have come up at all, drop them in the chat. We want to answer them. And at the end, we'll come back to them too. All right, we're almost done. We have a few more areas to hit. So now that you've signed and submitted your online application, then you'll be able to upload the remaining items that are required for your application to be complete. So the first thing that we'll talk about is your high school transcript. The high school transcript, of course, is an important component because we want to make sure that you are doing well academically. One thing to share is just that we want you to be successful. We want you to be supported and we want you to be successful. So this is why we look at your high school transcripts. We are looking at your unweighted GPA. So if you're taking AP courses or honors courses, know that we look at your GPA on a 4.0 scale versus your honors or AP scale. One other thing that we look for is the rigor of your coursework. Sometimes this is helpful for you as we're evaluating to see what academic scholarship you're eligible for. So even though we look at your unweighted GPA, it does not mean that those honors classes or AP classes don't help you when it comes to your decisions at Biola. It could help you definitely when it comes to academic scholarship. So with that in mind, I'm going to share a couple different ways of how to actually submit your transcripts. So there are 3 different ways that you can submit your transcripts, and I will kind of go in the order of which way is like best to submit it and which is quickest, because me and Amber, we are very efficient. We like getting things done very quick. We also like getting you decisions very quick. And so we want to make sure we process your transcripts as quickly as possible. So the first way to do this is to upload an unofficial version directly onto your online application. So this could look like a downloaded version, maybe from your counselor, your high school guidance counselor, screen clipping from your online student portal, or just a scanned document that you have from your guidance counselor. Those are things that we can take, and you can actually just upload that directly onto your application. And because you do that right then and there, you upload it, it takes about a day or so for us to process it. It's very quick. So there's kind of one way to do it. Second way is to send it to us electronically. A lot of schools nowadays will send transcripts electronically to universities, and Biola accepts those transcripts. So you can request those to be sent to us from your guidance counselor to your admissions counselor if you'd like. You can also send them through Naviance or Parchment. We do accept those transcripts as well. And then the last thing that you can do is mail it to Biola. As you guys, I'm sure, are very aware, mailing can take a lot of time, especially like in this season of this past year. We've seen a lot of things happen when it comes to mail services. So I would probably recommend either unofficially uploading a version onto your application or sending it to us electronically before you move forward with sending it to us by mail, just because those first two are a lot quicker. If you have any questions or run into issues, you are always welcome to connect with your admissions counselor directly, and we can always help you. So if you're ever having issues uploading things onto your online application, email us, text us, and we can help you from there.
Yeah, and that's good. Another reminder, when you send snail mail, it's hard in this season because if you can't tell, Emily and I and most of the university, we're still working from home. So physical mail takes a little bit longer for us to process in this time in the season. So definitely, this summer as you move forward with your application, if you're able to have that sent electronically, it really is the fastest and easiest way for everyone involved. So that's cool. Thanks, Em. We'll move on to test scores. And so it's a little bit weird, right? Because we're not 100% sure what we're going to do for fall 2021. Again, we're probably going to waive the test requirements. We're still waiting to hear from some of the sciences about what they want to do, but odds are we're going to kind of continue in this policy of being test optional. But if you do have test scores, if you were able to take either the SAT, ACT, or the CLT, please do submit those. Your test scores won't ever hurt you. Instead, it will help for academic scholarship eligibility. So definitely, if you have been able to take that, please send those in to us. And we don't need official copies unless you plan on attending Biola. So you can just do an unofficial version, something that you're able to download, either scan or take screenshots of. We can accept those for the admissions process. And you can also then, if you want to have the official test scores sent to us, you can request to have those done electronically, either through College Board or the ACT website. But again, we're still waiting to find out kind of what official university policy will be. Odds are, because of the pandemic, we'll probably waive that next year as well. But you guys are all in the Biola system now, and we will definitely be sending updates as they become available.
So good. Okay, so we've submitted transcripts, test scores, the online application. The last thing you'll complete is your personal essay. So I wanted to share you guys quickly kind of what the personal essay is, kind of what the prompt is, what to include, and then I want to give you some helpful tips. I think what can be overwhelming is figuring out what to include in your essay. As you're starting to apply for schools, that can be something that really bogs you down. So I want to share some tips and pointers. Amber and I in our time have read over hundreds of applications. So we know which ones are good and what to include in your application. So we'll share that with you. To start though, just a little overview of the essay portion itself. We do have a word count to help guide you. It's approximately 250 to 500 words, which is pretty short when it comes to an essay. This word count is to help guide you. Like I said, if you go over this word count, that is okay. We want to make sure that you're able to fully answer the prompt and share more about yourself. So if you feel like you need an extra 50 words or you need an extra 75 words, that's okay. We still want to make sure we're able to read your whole story and who you are. And then remember to answer the prompt fully. We can't tell you how many times we have to follow up with students because their essay didn't answer exactly what we were asking for. So I'll share with you a brief, summary of the prompt itself. Generally, what we're looking for is we want to get to know how you first came to know Jesus and then what your relationship has looked like in the past 3 years. Really simple. It's also very broad. So like I said, I'll share some tips with you to kind of help gauge what to include, but truly we're wanting to get to know your story and really how Jesus has been a part of your story. And it looks different for every single person. So we're not looking for anything specific. We just want to get to know you better. How to submit your essay on your application is, again, you'll upload your essay directly onto your online application. If you're having any issues, be sure to email your counselor. Sometimes there are glitches that happen or web browsers give issues to students. So email your counselor and we can always help upload it for you too, pretty simply. We don't want you to be stressed out because of some technical issue. All right, there's a little overview. We'll share some tips at the end, but I want to share with you what to include in your essay, just to help get your brain flowing and figuring out what to actually include. So these are some components that I see are helpful for students to include in their story, or at least help gather ideas to what to include. So this could look like including just areas of your life where you've been able to overcome obstacles. It could look like including an influential moment in your life. So sometimes for students. They might have had an experience where they went somewhere or they talked to someone, and that was really pivotal in them getting to know Jesus better. Could also look like including some sort of problem that you solved, something that was really like big in your life, created like a big problem, but you were able to actually solve that. It helps us see your strategic thinking skills too. And then the last thing that you can include is any examples of leadership. I would say this one's probably more of an added bonus, but it helps you kind of figure out if this is something that you want to include. Like if you were a part of a lot of leadership, captain of a team, or you were planning a lot of things with your church, part of a youth leadership team, whatever that looks like, we love seeing that. So feel free to include those things. Your application is really space for you to brag about yourself. So this is not the time to be humble. Feel free to brag and share about how awesome you are. All right. And then the other thing that we can use the essay for is to fill the gap. Sometimes in, this journey that you're in school, things happen. For example, I've had some students that I've seen in their transcript, like, man, this semester was really bad for them. Like they are an A, B student, but they did terrible this semester. It makes me think like, man, what happened in that semester? And I want to know what happened. And so you can take the essay as an opportunity to fill in that gap for us. If you feel like there was a big academic, riff in your transcript, or, we can notice, man, something happened in this year or this semester, feel free, take the opportunity to fill in the gap for us and share what happened that season. The essay prompt is broad on purpose because we want you to be able to share what you feel like is helpful for us to know. So always feel free to share that with us too. All right, so there's kind of general information about the essay itself, and then Amber's going to hit some tips for us.
Yeah, so Emily just shared how to successfully write and submit the personal essay for our application, but we also wanted to take time to briefly share some tips for writing the personal essay. Just some things that help make our jobs easier because we literally read hundreds of essays every single year. So the first tip is to really be yourself and use your voice. Our essay prompt is essentially your story, your testimony. So like Emily said, help us get to know you. This is not an overly formal English essay, so make sure that your voice shines through. And please, 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 write in the first person. The essay gets really weird if you try to avoid using I statements when you're telling your story. I read one the other day. She kept talking about the girl. The girl did this, and the girl felt that way, and the girl then prayed to Jesus and believed, and it was like awesome, but is the girl you? Like, because they need to know about you. So please use your voice, use I statements. It's about us getting to know you. Second there, please save and submit your essay as a PDF or Word or Pages document. Please don't submit a link to Google Doc. This essay should be in really its finalized, uneditable format. Please review and revise for grammar, spelling, and style. We're not English teachers. We're not grading you with a red pen, but it does make it easier for us to read if it's written well without like glaringly obvious mistakes. 4, make sure you submit a final copy that is clear of comments and suggestions. Please don't submit a rough copy or rough draft that has comments or guidance in the margins. And then lastly, please submit the correct essay. I can't tell you how often students forget to change the name of the university in their essay. So we read sentences like, and that's why I want to attend Azusa Pacific University, which is not so awesome to read in your Biola admissions essay. So we also have students that accidentally submit pictures of them on vacation, personal poems, and even mildly inappropriate TikTok style videos. So make sure that you double and triple check that what you are sending us is what you want us to see. Again, these won't stop you from being admitted to Biola, but these steps definitely make our jobs easier. So we thank you in advance for kind of following these personal essay tips.
Those TikTok videos, though, they do give us a good laugh. So.
I mean, we do have fun with it for sure. We'll save it and we'll giggle about it as a team. So thank you for that. But yeah, it's weird when we have to approach and be like, hey, can you submit your essay instead? So yeah, just double and triple check. So kind of moving on from that, we'll go to above and beyond section. The last thing we'll talk about before we move on to a time of Q&A are really kind of the special programs or majors that require action above and beyond just the general Biola admissions application. So here are some of the programs that have specific requirements or separate applications. The first listed there is our Torrey Honors College. If you are interested in the honors program at Biola, you'll need to complete the Torrey application on the website listed there. The Torrey application deadlines are the same as the general Biola admissions deadlines. So November 15th, January 15th, and March 1st. If you are interested in going into entertainment, the School of Cinema and Media Arts is another program that requires a separate above and beyond application. CMA only has two deadlines, November 15th and December 1st. So please be aware if you're interested in becoming a director, screenwriter, producer, kind of anything in the entertainment industry, there is a separate application for that. Let's see, the last program with a separate application is the Conservatory of Music. If you're interested in the performing arts, including theater, you'll need to complete an application and go through the audition process before March 1st. And then lastly, we have nursing listed there. Nursing doesn't have a separate application, but they do have specific requirements above and beyond those that we use for admissions. To be eligible for preclinical nursing, students need at least a 3.6 GPA and all A's or B's in both their science classes in high school. So we end up evaluating all preclinical nursing candidates in two separate application pools. The first is in December and the second is in February. If you're interested in nursing, please make sure your application to the university is complete by December 1st or February 15th at the latest. And if you're interested in learning more about these programs or other departments not listed here, we suggest you connect with your admissions counselor for more information.
So good. Okay, a lot of information, kind of a fire hose. We'll pause for a moment. Like I shared, be sure to chat in your questions that you have. Amber and I want to make sure we cover the things that you want to know more about. So take some time. You can always chat us. Everything is just directly to us, so we'll keep it all anonymous. So don't worry what you ask. We'll try to answer as many as we can. So with that said, let's dive in to our Q&A portion. And I'll stop sharing my screen so you guys can see us a little bit better too. Okay, so I'll ask this one, and Amber, if you want to just share more about it. Some students who are asking, what if I'm maybe struggling with my faith and still trying to figure out where I'm at when it comes to my relationship with God? I definitely consider myself a Christian, but journey has looked different. You share a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. And so we don't expect you to be perfect, right? We're all kind of in a process. We're all growing and learning, and nobody has all the answers. So if you're like doubting and having questions, Biola could be a really good place for you because it's a safe place to ask those questions as you take Bible classes and you're going to chapels and you're in community with other believers. Like it's a safe place to have those doubts. So that is okay. Really, it sounds like whoever asked that question is interested in growing in their faith. And so that is ultimately kind of what's most important to us kind of in this admissions process. It sounds like you do believe in Jesus and you're interested in kind of growing in that and finding answers. So for sure, we would encourage you to apply, see if we might be a good fit for you. And then we would go from there for sure.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. And everyone's in a different like aspect and journey of their faith. Like my relationship with Jesus looks different than Amber's does, and that's okay. We don't want everyone to be the same at Biola. It would be a really boring school if we were all the same. So you're definitely welcome. And you're welcome to ask questions to us too. Like I said, Amber and I are alum, and a lot of our admissions counselor are alumnus as well. So we want to talk to you about those things. And just a reminder for anyone who came in late too, we are recording this, so you will have access to this once we're done.
I received a question in the chat. So if you want to answer that, because we're tag teaming it. For the 3.6 GPA for preclinical nursing, is it weighted or unweighted?
Yes, we are looking at the unweighted GPA. So that's kind of generally to keep an eye on is your 3.6 unweighted. But like I said, we do consider your rigor of your coursework. So that could potentially still help you too. For nursing related questions, honestly, I'd probably recommend connecting with someone in our admissions office. We want to talk to you and prepare you for the application to Biola because nursing at every school looks different. So we want to make sure that you feel confident as you're starting this process. And then we can drop in the chat to maybe our direct link to our nursing website, and it provides you guys some more information about how to apply, when the deadlines are, what we're looking for in general, things like that to help guide you. Good question. All right, Amber, this one's for you. We'll just back and forth here. How do you know who your admissions counselor is?
Good question. Yeah. So we'll drop it in the chat. We do have a list for finding your counselor, and this is me talking while I'm like Googling so we can find that link. But yeah, so there is a way you're able to put in your like what you're planning on studying, whether or not you are like a transfer student. Let me put it here. And then your zip code as well. So for most students, we break you down by your zip code. We do it by territory or states. If you're in California, it's kind of like what region you're in and things like that. So if you go to that site that I just dropped in the chat, you'll see there are kind of like 4 different steps that you'll need to complete. And then once you answer those questions, it's going to point you to one of us. And so that'll be the person you talk to. And then on there too is an option to ask us questions. So you can then put your name, your contact information, ask your question, and that generates an email that goes directly to your admissions counselor. So please feel free. We would love to start getting to know you guys. I know this is for junior preview day. We would love to get to know you as we kind of then move into the summer and start working with you more full time. Any other questions?
I have a couple coming through.
Oh, cool.
I can answer them or you can answer them, whatever you.
Say, does that mean I have to answer them if like they're going to you? You guys can ask me questions too, so Emily has to talk. I know we're all getting tired of hearing my voice. I got this fancy mic, so maybe the audio quality is okay, but like, please, let's let Emily talk too.
You guys are welcome to direct message me and we can just bombard Amber with all the questions.
Nope, don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay, this is a theme of questions. So it's just kind of asking like, can you get rejected because of test scores? If I don't have a test score, does this negatively impact my scholarship? Those are probably the ones that are similar together. I can answer it. Don't worry, Amber, I got it. I will say, if you are below our standardized requirements for test scores or for your GPA, we do follow up with students, and the beauty of Biola is we look at students holistically. So sometimes we might have a great student who is awesome academically, but does not test well when it comes to standardized tests. That was my experience when I was a senior in high school. So I'm right there with you. And that's really just a way for us to follow up with you and kind of go the extra mile to make sure that we're able to help support you and make sure that you'll be successful here. So to answer it quite generally, I would say no, we're not going to reject you because of a certain test score or anything like that. And then go ahead, Amber.
I was going to say, and our job isn't to be like punitive. We're not like, oh, you don't have these test scores, and so we're going to punish you for that. Really, our job is to make sure that if you come to Biola, you would be successful. So it may require us like some follow-up conversations with you or requiring some like letters of recommendation just to help us kind of understand better if you were to come here, what supports would you need, or like, again, would you be successful? So there may be a couple things we need you to do, but it's not like well, you did bad, and so now you can't come. So that's the attitude that we're taking. I know one of my most favorite students that I worked with ever, he's a junior now at Biola. GPA was pretty poor, but that's because like when he was a freshman and a sophomore, like admittedly, he was just sort of an idiot, right? Like he didn't take school seriously. He like wasn't planning on going to college. He was going to get a baseball scholarship, and like, you know, people would be begging him to come, like that sort of attitude. And then his junior year, he realized, oh, like I need to grow up a little bit and take kind of my future seriously. So that's okay too. Like we were able to talk about that. And like I said, he's a junior now at Biola, and he's doing really well. So definitely like kind of giving the full picture and the full story, kind of working with you holistically is something that we do and something that we take really seriously. So.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And just to say too, like we look to admit students, we don't look to deny students. So we're going to look to reasons why you should be here before we even consider the latter there. It's a good question. And then have one that I'll hand off to you, Amber. Are homeschool students required to submit a test score?
Yeah, so right now we aren't requiring a test score from anybody. If you have one as a homeschool student, great. We would love to have it. But in normal years, pre-COVID, so was it PC? Pre-COVID years, yes, we did require everybody to have a test score, whether you were in public school, private school, charter school, homeschooled. Please take the SAT, the ACT, or the CLT. Because tests are being canceled, we're not requiring that from anybody. So it kind of depends on how we move forward. If we start requiring them, then yes, homeschool students will need to do that as well. If we don't, then nope, don't worry about it at all.
Yeah. Okay. Last one's having to do with, I also really liked the what was it, pre-COVID PC.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a thing. That was pretty good.
Yep.
Okay. These questions are having to do with dual enrollment. So if you're taking courses from a community college or just a college and it's counting towards your credits in high school, and you're also getting credits for college too. So two different questions coming from this. Are we considered a transfer student if we've taken a class or two at a community college? Amber is shaking her head no. You want to share more about that?
No. If you've taken it as part, like while you were enrolled in high school, then you are still considered an incoming freshman, even if we give you credit for those classes. So please don't apply as a transfer student. And it actually works in your favor because transfer students get less academic scholarship than our freshman students. So no worries. If you take classes at a community college before you graduate from high school, you are still considered an incoming freshman.
So good. And I have another question coming from that. I can answer that. And Amber, as I do this, do you want to grab the link to the transfer equivalencies tool and drop it in the chat? Thanks. Okay, so any student that is dual enrolled, taking college courses at the, as your high school student, we can give you credit for those classes. And it's actually really simple to evaluate and make sure that you're receiving credit for those things. So I'm having Amber drop a link to our transfer equivalencies tool. This is such a helpful tool when it comes to dual enrollment, even next year, as you're thinking about which classes you want to register for when it comes to dual enrollment. These are the ones that are all pre-approved to transfer to Biola. Very, very simple. And then you would still be considered a first-time freshman, but you'd also have credits coming in. So more than likely you'll fulfill some of your general education requirements and maybe speed up either your time or just decrease the amount of workload that you have each semester at Biola. And this is a good thing to talk with your admissions counselor about too, because we can actually help make sure that we get all those courses evaluated for you as well. Okay, I have one more question. You do too? Okay, so good. All right, I'll ask mine then for you first. Let me make sure I'm understanding this right. You want to ask yours first, Amber?
Sure. So there are actually a couple came through. Apologies to you guys. I didn't have it open. So as I'm going through here, yeah, does Biola do worship nights or something similar to that under normal circumstances? Absolutely. So part of being a Biola student, we ask that students take not only 10 classes in biblical and theological studies, where you graduate with a minor in that, but we also ask that students go to chapel. So students are asked to go to at least 20 chapels a semester. We offer like 8 or 9 a week in normal circumstances, so it's not hard to get those, but definitely that's something that we ask students do. And one of the kind of special chapels that we normally have Sunday nights, it's called Inspiration, where it's a chapel opportunity, but it's just all worship. So if you're interested in just like a worship night, that for sure, Singspo is awesome. It's a lot of people's favorite chapel opportunities. So yeah, for sure, that is something that's available. And then, I mean, people, so one of the things that I love about Biola is that like you'll find just like people randomly sitting like in grassy areas with like guitars and like bongos, just like worshiping and like off, people can like join like their drum circle and like worship. And so it's a weird like college atmosphere, like very different from like a UC or Cal State where maybe there's like bongo drums, but they're doing something very different. But yeah, it is sort of a cool atmosphere where it's just like it's a special community. So yeah, those are definitely opportunities that we have.
You could keep going. I'm asking for clarity on a question, but that was the only one I have.
Cool. So some of these are kind of specific. How easy is it to get into CMA? How likely is it that I'd be rejected? Cinema Media Arts is one of our more popular programs, so it would depend on really kind of the one of the concentrations that you're applying to. We recommend that you apply. Definitely, it's not one of those programs where if you don't get in right away, that you can't reapply your sophomore year. I don't know if you guys have heard of Zach King. He does a lot of like special effects videos on like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. He's a Biola alum. He got rejected from our Cinema Media Arts program his freshman year and then applied his sophomore year and got in. So one of our most famous, most beloved like alum is sort of an example of how maybe you don't get in right away, but you can still reapply. So there's that question. Let's see, another question on when is the latest we'll hear if you'll need to take standardized tests. We're working on that right now. We're talking to our academic side of the house, our provost office, to find out what that's going to look like for the fall. Again, I'm fairly certain we're going to be test optional next year just because we are still in the midst of a pandemic. So again, no worries on that. We will let you guys know in plenty of time before we start requiring those things. Another question, if I apply this spring, would you hold my application until November? Would I have to reapply? If you are applying for fall 21, we do ask that you wait until this summer to start the application. The application essay is going to stay the same. I've been working at Biola for forever, and the application essay has not changed. So if you want to work on your testimony, kind of how and why you became a Christian and how you've grown spiritually in the last 3 years, that is a way you can kind of start on the process now to save time in the future. But we do ask that you wait until that specific application opens, just for logistic reasons. It's a little more difficult if we have to change your term. Let's see. Other things that you guys are wondering.
I can answer any questions too.
Cool. Yeah, I know. I didn't know if you were like trying to get other answers. Hey, Emily, my community college wasn't on that list. I checked it recently. Is that an issue?
No, it's not an issue. More than likely, your community college is accredited. It should be fine. It's just very possible we haven't had students take courses from that particular school yet. So in that case, if you do not find either the college that you're taking courses with or the particular course that you're taking on that transfer equivalencies tool, feel free to email us. It's just admissions, plural, @biola.edu, and we can help you from there.
Another question for you, Emily. Are we allowed to talk to counselors now about grades or GPA or just anything in general?
Yes, of course. We'd love to talk with you guys. We also have some admissions associates that their job primarily is to talk with junior students. So we have people specifically for you to talk to. And then eventually you'll be talking with your admissions counselor too, or if it's a more specific questions, we might be talking to you directly. So yes, reach out to us. You can use the link that Amber put on the chat that is like the Meet My Counselor page, and you can email us directly, or you can just email us at admissions@biola.edu, and we can help you guys with any questions that you have.
I have another question. What would you put if you wanted to double major? Good question. We actually don't allow incoming students to declare a second major until they're like physically on campus at Biola. So if it's a weird major like nursing or like film, kind of any of the ones that we talked about, you should probably put that one first because you would need to be admitted into that program, and then you can add a second major. But if it's kind of just a regular program, you can put whatever you want. And then as a freshman at Biola, we would get you in contact with academic advising and the registrar's office to declare that second major.
So good. Okay, drop any other questions that you guys have. Can make sure to answer all of those for you. Did we get through all of the ones that you have coming in, Amber? We got through all of mine too, which is great.